Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Obviously, some disappointing news late Wednesday night for the Miami Hurricane fans. Five-star defensive back DJ Pickett committing to LSU over Miami, over the Oregon Ducks. Kind of shocking a lot of people across the industry. I want to open up the conversation in terms of where does Miami go from here on the recruiting trail, specifically in the defensive backfield. I want to preface this conversation with noting that Mario Cristobal in Miami, they are certainly not going to give up on DJ Pickett until National Signing Day comes along. We've seen Miami do this multiple times on the recruiting trail in past cycles. I think Justin Scott first comes to mind. Obviously, verbally commits to Ohio State. Miami does not give up, ends up landing him in the 2024 class. Mario Cristobal is one of the most tenacious recruiters that we see in the country. He's not going to give up on DJ Pickett. I think there's a very solid chance that DJ Pickett ends up with this Miami Hurricanes class in 2025. And I think what's most exciting about that conversation is what if Miami goes out and wins 10 plus games, makes the college football playoffs? I mean, we've seen Miami recruit at an elite level since Mario Cristobal has taken over, with not exactly having successful seasons Saturdays in the fall. Right? What happens when this Miami Hurricanes team puts it together on Saturdays, wins 10 plus games, and now Mario Cristobal has a whole new package to sell these kids on the recruiting trail? I mean, you're checking so many boxes as evidence of signing top 10 classes back-to-back years. What happens when Miami reaches their potential Saturdays in the fall, starts winning football games, and now Mario Cristobal can sell that this is a team that's going to compete for ACC national titles over the next couple of years? You're going to see some fireworks come National Signing Day. And I think one of those fireworks certainly could be five-star defensive back DJ Pickett. But we got to have the conversation in terms of where does Miami go from here. Take a look at some other prospects that are on the Miami Hurricanes boards. Fired up to get into it. Before we do, and as always, massive shout out to the Miami Hurricane fans. This is a program that you guys know we love talking about, specifically on the recruiting trail. I don't think there's a fan base that's more engaged on the recruiting trail than the Miami Hurricane fans. I can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the boys. This is something I love talking about as well. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into this conversation. I think we got to go back to the 2024 class, where you're sitting pretty good in terms of the young talent in the defensive back group on this Hurricanes program. Obviously headlined by Zaquan Patterson. What I think makes Zaquan Patterson so special is he's a guy that can do so many different things in the secondary for this Hurricanes defense. He can play the nickel role. He can play the box safety role. He can play as a free safety as well. When you have somebody that is not only as talented as Zaquan Patterson, but as versatile as Zaquan Patterson, it starts getting really easy to get your best players on the football field consistently for this Miami Hurricanes defense. You also have a guy in Ryan Mack who is getting a ton of buzz going into his true freshman year, and I'm not sure he plays a ton as a true freshman as much as someone like Zaquan Patterson. That being said, it sounds like within the walls of the Miami Hurricanes, you feel pretty good about what Ryan Mack is bringing to the table. And then you look at 2025, you start scrolling down this list at the cornerback spot. You got Chris Ewald, who maybe doesn't have the high physical traits upside. It's like someone like DJ Pickett, who's really just a unicorn. That's not a knock on Chris Ewald, who's a phenomenal athlete in and of itself. DJ Pickett's just kind of a unicorn. And Chris Ewald's floor is just so high at the college football level. You talk about guys that are ready to be year one, year two impact guys. That's Chris Ewald. I mean, you just take a look at the wide receivers that he was working against in practices every single day at the high school level. Jeremiah Smith, JoJo Trader. This is a guy that is a polished cornerback that's going to play early for the Miami Hurricanes. And the other cornerback you have is Timmy Merritt from the state of Alabama, who from a physical trait standpoint arguably has a higher upside than Chris Ewald. Now, I don't think he's as good of a player right now as Chris Ewald, but you talk about upside, you talk about betting on some traits. Timothy Merritt, coming from the state of Alabama, is certainly a guy to be excited about. Then you look at the safety room. It's obviously headlined by Hilton Drake Stubbs, one of my, if not my favorite safety that we see in the 2025 class, a ball hawking safety that not only has elite physical traits, but the instincts at the safety position, it's next level. And then you get Amari Wallace from Miami Central, I think Miami's sitting here looking at their secondary in the 2025 cycle and say, we feel pretty good about where we stand. And obviously, we would have loved to have DJ Pickett, but as you sit right now, you feel pretty good about what Miami has in there. And I think what's even more exciting is they're still trending to add some more guys in the secondary. Let's start at the cornerback spot with Jabari Antoine, who is committing this weekend. Now, if you're a Miami Hurricanes fan and say, all right, DJ Pickett was not going to go to Miami, would you rather have him go to Oregon or LSU? You probably say LSU because it helps your chances with Jabari Antoine, right? DJ Pickett going to LSU, your main competition for Jabari Antoine was LSU. So it's coming down to Miami and LSU going into the weekend. You got to feel pretty confident about where Miami stands for a four-star cornerback from the state of Louisiana and Jabari Antoine, a guy that we broke down when he previously committed to LSU, long cornerback that can operate with the football, that can operate when the football's in the air, has really good ball skills, 5 interceptions as a junior. Now, you want to see Jabari Antoine put a little bit more weight on. That's something we talk about a lot. The one thing we're not necessarily too concerned about with these long, wiry cornerbacks is them putting on weight. Because as they go into their senior year, as they go into their first year within this Miami Hurricanes program, Jabari Antoine, with just the size of his frame, he's a long, big frame. He's going to get up to around 190 pounds, and I think just be fine from a physicality standpoint. What you want to make sure you're betting on is the guys that have that desired athleticism. Do they have the long speed? Are they smooth in the lower half? Jabari Antoine certainly checks those boxes. And so it's a consolation prize for DJ Pickett, but this is still a top 100 national prospect where there is a lot to be excited about in terms of what Jabari Antoine can bring to this Miami Hurricanes program. Another guy that probably my favorite cornerback still on the board for this Hurricanes team, Ben Hanks Jr. from Booker T. Washington. You take a look at the physical traits that we want in our cornerbacks. Very similar conversation to Jabari Antoine, where it's a long, rangy cornerback with long arms that can put hands on wide receivers at the line of scrimmage. Ben Hanks, 6 interceptions during his junior year. He has a track and field background. So when you start combining the frame, the long speed, those are the boxes that we want to see checked at the cornerback spot. I mean, if you land Jabari Antoine, Ben Hanks Jr., or just one of them, and you kind of put them in that class with Chris Ewald and Timmy Merritt, if you're a Miami Hurricanes fan, you feel pretty good about what that cornerback class looks like in the 2025 cycle. Then you go to the safety position where, again, I think DJ Pickett was going to play safety at the college football level. He's a guy that can obviously play both positions. He's just kind of one of those unicorn athletes. You feel good about where your safeties are too, right? Amari Wallace, Hilton, Drake Stubbs, Drake Stubbs being one of, if not my favorite safety in the 2024 class or 2025 class, Bryce Fitzgerald, kind of an interesting safety prospect where he's down there in Miami, Florida. There's not been a ton of buzz around his name, kind of a quiet guy that's hard to get a read on where he's going to go with. Miami wanted to pivot from someone like DJ Pickett and really turn the heat up on somebody. I think Bryce Fitzgerald would make a ton of sense. This is a guy that had 10 interceptions during his junior year. You take a look at what Miami's kind of coveting at that safety spot, it becomes pretty clear they want guys that are ball hogs, that can go play the football in the air. Bryce Fitzgerald, basketball background, when that football is in the air, Bryce Fitzgerald has just a knack for going up and getting it. The ball skills are very, very impressive with Bryce Fitzgerald, and you pair him up with Drake Stubbs at that safety room, Miami's going to be creating some turnovers over the next couple of years. So I think to close out this conversation, you look at where Miami sits and say, yeah, DJ Pickett, it's a tough loss late Wednesday night. Again, this is going to be a recruitment that continues to National Signing Day. I think there's a good chance that Miami ends up with DJ Pickett. Miami's sitting pretty good in terms of what they have in the defensive backroom, but I think more importantly, you feel pretty good about some of the other players Miami still has on their board and that they are trending for as well. We'll obviously continue to keep you guys updated as it plays out. Appreciate y'all rocking with the fellas. Again, all the support means the world. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later.